you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be with us here at Gupshup, ConverseAI. It's our very, very first edition of ConverseAI, and we're super thrilled about it. It's an event IP that Gupshup has recently launched that aims to use conversations as a medium to focus on the power of how a simple conversation between humans, or whether it's enterprises and customers, to bring about change and to drive, engagement as well. So today's session is primarily, like the title suggests, about how we can go beyond the hype of generative AI. How do we demystify this topic that everyone's talking about, writing blogs about, and get directly into the enterprise aspect of the impact that it can have. Today's session has brought together a lot of thought leaders, tech experts, as well as influencers in the space and decision makers to sort of help you demystify this topic, this trending topic, and we're super excited about it. Before we kick off the session, feel free to use the chat box to drop any questions, comments, suggestions to us. Our team's on standby and they'll answer your questions right away. We'll also have polls running throughout the session that you can sort of vote on. We'd love to hear your responses and opinions on this topic. It'll just help us grow more. So welcome again. Thanks for taking the time, and let's get started. In terms of the agenda today, like I mentioned, we have multiple speakers. We have internal CXOs from Gupshup. So we have our CEO, Biraj Sheth. We have our CPO, Gaurav Kachava. We also have Sandeep Alur, who's the director at Microsoft Technology Center, join us for a really exciting session, as well as a fireside chat with Abhineet Sarkar. He leads digital solutions and innovation at Tata AIA Life Insurance. And we finished with a Q&A section towards the end that sort of has, like, our experts will take all your questions, and we hopefully will be able to engage you all right till the end. So do stay tuned.
Let me share a few of my preliminary thoughts to kick off this discussion, right? As you've noticed, the media buzz around generative AI is intense. I'm sure many of you are wondering what happened all of a sudden. How did AI get so good? Well, academic research in AI has been going on for nearly 70 years. In fact, I did some of my graduate research work in AI at MIT about 30 years ago. So AI itself is not new and has been making slow and steady progress. And in all that time, AI has quietly been taking advantage of three major trends. Number one, new innovations in software, especially the ideas of deep learning and transformers, which just emerged in the last few years, have made software much, much better. Number two, continuous improvement in hardware in line with Moore's law. And number three, availability of substantial data on the internet, which can be used for training the models. Well, when you put these three trends together, right, like I said, software, hardware, and data, putting these together, we found that a large enough neural network, for example, with about 100 billion params, trained on the data available on the internet, can figure out the patterns in human language. And that model was GPT-3 by OpenAI. No one can explain exactly how or why the model works, but it does, surprisingly well. Since then, we've seen ChatGPT built on GPT 3.5 and now GPT-4. And then there are many other models by open source communities, by Google, Meta, and plenty of other companies. These models keep getting better and now also work on images, videos, and more. The ability of these large language models to understand human queries and to come up with surprisingly good responses is a real game changer. LLMs will impact every area where human language is used, and that's a very wide surface area. For example, marketing messages, right? AI can be used to create blog posts and stories for marketing purposes. Media and journalism, right? Creating news articles automatically, especially for sports or financial reports and so on. AI is powering that as well. Educational content, and even homework assignments, right? There's numerous stories about how students and professors are using, AI and large language models to come up with great content. The legal and judicial field is very language intensive and will also get impacted. And in particular, as it relates to Gupshup, conversational messaging, right? Uh, these these conversational experiences are all about language, and as language capabilities improve, these chatbot interfaces will improve dramatically, right? Web and app interfaces may not be substantially impacted because they're very structured interfaces, right? So they may not be impacted by LLMs, but conversational interfaces certainly will in a big way. This presents a great opportunity for businesses, right? They can leverage AI to dramatically enhance their customer communication and engagement. However, incorporating LLMs into your chatbots is not going to be easy. There are many challenges that come up, right? Large language models are articulate, but they're not very accurate. If you asked it what's the price of a specific item, it will come up with an answer. It may just not be the accurate price, which can be a problem for an e-commerce website, right? Um, these One way to think about it is it's like a college graduate which understands English very well and can speak in an articulate way about anything, but it doesn't know the specifics of any business at all, right? Also, these large language models tend to hallucinate, which is not surprising, right? Since it is a generative model, meaning it generates a plausible sounding answer, it just may not be accurate. Um, so Gupshup has been doing a lot of research to fine tune these models, to cut out hallucinations, to cut out the irrelevant responses, and to have them be goal oriented by having specific workflows in them, right? Because when you really think about it, a business conversation, right, as opposed to a social conversation, a business conversation has to be accurate, it has to be precise, it has to be contextual, it has to be relevant, it has to be goal oriented, right? If any of that is missing, that can cause a problem for the brand, that can cause a problem for the consumer, and can lead to undesirable outcomes. So making it work right and making it work well takes a lot of effort, and that's where Gupshup and our AI team is spending a lot of energy and a lot of research in improving these capabilities. Now, beyond the AI itself, there are many other additional factors to consider, right? What about data sovereignty? Where is the data hosted? In what country? Is it on prem? What are the regulations surrounding data, depending on the industry or vertical? Financial services, healthcare, might be highly regulated and have to be very careful with where the data goes. The other is cost, cost per query, because if you start having millions of conversations, the cost can add up very, very quickly. And then which model specifically, right? There are different strengths and weaknesses of different models, which are better suited for different purposes. So, as you can see, the devil is in the details, and the choices are proliferating, they're becoming more and more complex. Anyway, worry not. At Gupshup, our goal is to make it easy for our customers to harness this awesome power of AI for their business, in their context, for their customers, right? For their specific situation. We have AI research teams that are focused on the latest advances, the engineering team that are incorporating it into the product, and the product and marketing teams who to simplify and demystify and explain it all to you. Well, that's why we are here. So let's move on to the next part of the program where we'll dig deeper into some of these issues. There's a lot of material to cover and it keeps changing all the time. So that may not all be possible in just this one session alone. So we hope to do many more sessions. Please share your suggestions so we can keep meeting your needs as we together take advantage of these breakthrough new developments in AI technologies. Thank you.
Sandeep Alur. He's the director at Microsoft Technology Center. He's not just a tech aficionado, he's a tech evangelist. He's someone who's always pushing for his customers' digital transformation journeys to be accelerated. He's extremely passionate about generative AI, being from Microsoft, of course. And he's here to share a lot of insights with us, especially around GPT-4, along with some exciting demos that he's promised to share with us and with y'all. So, Sandeep, handing it over to you.
Awesome. Aparna, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon. And what a great start. Bedou's message is bang on in terms of the true genesis of large language models. I think, it took me back to some of the learnings I've done. It was more of a refresher for me personally. So it was a wonderful start. And again, congratulations to all of you at Gupshup, because, as part of my work at Microsoft, I get to speak to one or two customers every single day and talk to them about how they can look at these LLMs and make their application intelligent, conversational, but they need somebody to help them. And I'm so good to see that you guys are way ahead of the game when it comes to adopting the LLMs and making your product a lot more, I would say, low code, no code, and be a lot closer to business. Yeah. So congratulations to you guys for that. And I'm going to get going with my presentation.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you should see my screen now. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. So let's get going. I'm going to just bring a view here where I don't see any of you here. Sorry, just give me a second. Okay. Let's get going. So now, as you see on my screen, there's a title which says the future. I've been on this trail when it comes to looking at generative AI, large language models, especially GPT-2 and 3.0, in the past. So closely watching that, and that time when used to present, the title was the future, but honestly, in the last 6 months, I've changed this to represent the reality, which is the future is here. Yeah. So future is here. Everything I'm going to show today, everything I'm speaking right now, nothing is future. Everything's available for all of us to use it, look at the true transformative nature of this innovation and apply it meaningfully, responsibly to our businesses. Yeah. Quickly, now let's get started. Now, I said future is here, and I thought no better way to basically put what's in my mind onto paper. So this is something which yesterday I was basically looking at. Hey, I want to generate a visual, right? The prompt I had was, I want to generate a visual where there's an artist, sitting there with his headphones on, painting, and there's a video camera recording his actions, right? This is the mental visual I had, and I pretty much put that as a prompt to DALL-E 2, right? DALL-E 2 is a natural language generation, and I would say visual art generation model. Takes a natural language input, gives you art. So what you see on the screen right now is never seen before footage of this visual I had in mind. Of course, may not be exactly what I thought, but of course, with further fine tuning, I can get to what I want, right? So this is when we say we live in the world where what you want to achieve, what you want to do, what you think can put into prompts. When I say prompt, pure natural language English here in this case, and there is I would say this brain or reasoning brain which basically understands that intent and gives you output, right? That's the world we live in. All these days we use a term called conversation AI. In my personal opinion, there were least amount of conversations when it comes to conversation AI. It was dominantly Q&A, right? And Q&A wherein you had to ask in a specific format, and beyond which most of these bots basically failed miserably, right? When I say, not a negative context, but they didn't understand us beyond a point. It said, hey, did you mean this, mean that? Or rather, I got 5 questions back to me saying, hey, did you mean any of these 5 things that as you're asking question? Not good, not a conversation. Now, we've basically entered right now a tarmac where we're seeing the reality of AI closer to what industry pundits projected. And of course, we're entering an era where a lot of, I would say, the promise of AI is becoming reality. No, this is truly a moment in history. This is, again, my narrative to via prompt to DALL-E 2. Hey, I basically, if you look at this right now, just like step back, this is no less than an iPhone moment, or a calculator moment in terms of the goodness of this innovation as well as the disruptive nature of this. Now, this is the visual I got when I asked DALL-E, hey, give me a visual which represents a chalk drawing, right? A sketch drawing, which signifies an iPhone moment and a calculator moment. This is the creativity at its best. Yeah. Now, let's look at this. Now, when we say GPT, of course, all of us understand this full form, generative pre-trained transformer. But let's reflect on the term here, which is pre-trained. Yes, it is largely trained. It is highly trained on the world's data, basically massive corpus of world's data. The reason why we use the term pre-trained is because, yes, so much has gone into making or building this brain, which understands a lot of context in this particular world. Now, when you interact with ChatGPT, you ask a question, with the context, you ask a question with additional data. It gave you meaningful response. It helped you reason with that particular data that you had, right? And the data you're presenting, the model has never seen that before, right? The context you're giving is unknown to the model, right? So hence, ability for this model to basically reflect and respond to you speaks volume of the fact that it's highly trained, right? It's a pre-trained model. And again, we should look at this innovation in front of us, which basically, if you look at ChatGPT, a lot of people use ChatGPT like a fact database, right? It's not to be looked at that way. You look at ChatGPT as a reasoning engine, an engine which is highly trained, intelligent, which can understand what you're asking and aptly respond to you with meaningful, I would say, actions, right? Of course, we're looking at a point in time in history where this model can do tasks, not a job, by the way, right? So no jobs, it can't do independently its job. Somebody has to prompt this particular model to act upon it, which is where the relevance is dominantly on its reasoning capability. Okay, so in fact, interestingly, this is a book which is authored by Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, and he co-authored this book with GPT-4. Right now, this is like a travelogue. He basically interacts with GPT-4, asks a lot of pertinent questions which are important from a society perspective in terms of how the world will evolve, right? It's a beautiful, I would say, narration interaction with GPT-4 and Reid Hoffman, so it's worth a read. But the point here is, look, this is no less than you having a digital companion, right? A buddy or a friend in the digital world who is there for you. Now, which is where it comes to the point saying, hey, are we close to AGI? AGI has been a term used for a long time, artificial general intelligence, and industry pundit touted this innovation to be a reality 30, 40 years down the line, right? But all of a sudden we're seeing AGI being spoken, in a lot more relevance right now, because the fact that, or rather the question is, are we, whatever innovation we're seeing right now, let's say ChatGPT, is that giving us a peek or a glimpse into what is practically possible from AGI in future? Absolutely. It's basically peek into that world of AGI, right? So hence, it's truly that time in the industry where we're seeing a spark, we're seeing genesis of what is a very promising future when it comes to, when I say AGI, missions basically having cognitive reasoning capabilities like human beings, right? That's what it's all about. Now, very familiar UI, right? All of a sudden we talk about, hey, why, the world is going gaga about AI. AI has been there for decades. And we also saw a winter and a summer of AI. And of course, there was bright sunny days around the corner. And suddenly we all said, you know what, there's something magical that happened. Why did all of a sudden we think we kind of started giving so much prominence to AI? Reason is simple. One of the leaders in this said this. For the first time, we saw somebody give UI to AI. Right? We never had a UI to AI. AI has been there for a long time in a autopilot mode. Right? This is what our CEO Satyanarayana says beautifully, saying, if you look at the current meeting that we're having, there's AI baked in terms of, yes, there might be recording happening. My voice is getting converted to text, and you may have a choice to listen to my I would say dialogue, I would say voice in the language of your choice, right? You open your phone, there is AI. You go to mailbox, there's AI. So AI has been there all over the place. But for the first time, we're looking at a shift happening in terms of AI being in autopilot mode to what we call as a co-pilot mode, right? Pretty much it signifies the fact that when you use ChatGPT or let's say used Alexa, Cortana, Siri, Google Home, whatever we call it, all these conversation agents, we all looked at them as our digital companions, right? A companion who can take instructions from us and respond back with meaningful output. Yeah. So truly, this is the time the digital companions are practically arriving. In fact, yesterday was important for Microsoft because we had a flagship build conference. At this conference, it truly rained digital companions. We use a term called Copilot. It rained Copilots. Imagine Windows operating system getting a Copilot like a Windows Copilot. Now, Copilot for the web, Copilot for Office, right? No, I'll show glimpses of that as we go along. But truly, we're living in an era where these generative AI power is being infused into a lot of these digital companions, which makes conversation more real than ever before. Yeah. So yes, we are living in an era. This is a genesis of an era where we're talking about a co-pilot. Again, a co-pilot because of the fact that as humans, as users, as pilots, we stay in charge, right? Co-pilot never takes over. Co-pilot is always there to help us, help the pilot stay productive, help pilot in times of need, and that's the role of the co-pilot. So here, in the literal sense, this innovation we have in front of us is truly manifest as a co-pilot at a work. Let's jump right into a few examples. By the way, I'm on a Bing browser right now. I'm going to show you a few examples. Now, the new Bing is again a classic evidence of a conversation-based search. And the new Bing is powered by GPT-4. Again, GPT-4 will reflect on that innovation. It's the most factually right model ever built on this planet so far. So let's get right into this particular I would say demo. I'm in the new Bing. My question is, hey, can you summarize announcement made by Microsoft yesterday Build conference? So beautifully it takes my question and it is summarizing. Basically, what Bing is doing is searching for relevant information basis my prompt, and then hands off to GPT-4 to respond here, right? That's what is happening as you see. Now, while it responds, it also gives me a citation of links where it found information, which is important for me to understand, right? And of course, it gives me a few news articles where for the information available, my question to Bing here is, hey, summarize news articles for me. I will decide to read after looking at the summary. Beautifully, it takes my instruction, summarize for me. So this is truly an example of a conversation-based search. Again, this is available. You can go to Bing chat and you can absolutely interact with it like any other source. In fact, yesterday was interesting, right? So we actually, the Bing, is being added to ChatGPT Plus. That means Bing, if you look at ChatGPT is trained till September 2021, right? That means the information that it has is stuck in the past. How do you bring in recency, right? So Bing is powering ChatGPT Plus, where you ask a question, it looks at Bing to bring in recent data, and then it reasons with it. For example, if you ask ChatGPT, who is the Prime Minister of UK, it still says Boris Johnson because that's a life before September 2021. If you ask the ChatGPT Plus with Bing powered ChatGPT Plus, which is going to be around the corner, that gives you Rishi Sunak, right? That's where recency comes in. Now, second example, I said, look at this as a reasoning engine. Let's reason with it now. I'm in an Edge browser and I'm looking at Bank of Baroda balance sheet. Okay, just an example here. Now, typically stats says all of us spend an average 3 hours in a browser every single day. That's part of our work. You may be browsing some content or working, doesn't matter, but average 3 hours. Now, can I have a co-pilot within my Edge browser? Absolutely. So let's look at that. Now I'm here, I'm scrolling down. This is basically balance sheet of Bank of Baroda, last 4 years. Now I invoke my co-pilot using the Bing icon top right. I'm selecting the data. By the way, what I'm selecting becomes a prompt to my reasoning engine, the model. Now I'm sending it here. My co-pilot says, hey, what do you want to do with the text? I'm saying, hey, summarize this text for me in bullets. That's my prompt to the model, right? The model is looking at my data, which is raw text. If you look at it, it's pure raw text, and it's beautifully narrating me, right? Narrating that, summarizing for me, basically, in terms of what is there in that particular raw data. I mean, this is true reasoning, right? I don't stop there. I say, you know what? Can you compare this data with the previous fiscal and display as table? I like tabular data. So here you go, right? So now the co-pilot within Edge browser took my instructions, and instructions was executed on the data that I showed the model, right? Basically, the model is made to ground itself the data I presented. I mean, that's the beauty. That's the future. The future is you will show data, and the model will help you reason with the data that you're showing. That means the version of truth, the single version of truth that you feel it should reflect on is what you will provide to the model. That's the best part. Of course, if you don't provide that information, it will answer basis the knowledge it possesses as a brain, right? Moving forward. Now, the future is, yes, every single persona, in my view, this is what we believe will help elevate productivity, get things done faster in a more efficient fashion. So every persona, irrespective of industry, will have a co-pilot, right? A musician or a lawyer or a financial analyst or a developer, doesn't matter, right? End of the day, the power of generative AI will touch hearts and minds of each of these personas across industry. I mean, that's the future, right? In fact, we've been talking to, as part of my job, I get to speak to customers across industry vertical, be it healthcare, manufacturing, retail, banking, doesn't matter. So every single industry, they're looking at how do we bring co-pilot like a design thinking and elevate productivity, okay? The trail continues, of course, in terms of what you can do, but let's look at, see, this is, I would say, capsule one I want to land. That means the innovation we have is very real. And what we have is a reasoning brain. In fact, I'll show a few examples to drive home the point that what we have is not a fact-checking database, which a lot of people use in ChatGPT. No, what is behind ChatGPT is a reasoning brain. Of course, it's been trained massively on world's data, and hence it has that intelligence to answer any question on the planet, right? Let's look at it. I said reasoning engine. Again, I'm still trying to drive home the point that imagine each of us have a co-pilot and we have a reasoning brain with us, and how do we use that engine to our advantage? Now, by the way, I'm going to show an example here. Everything I'm going to show from here on, or rather what I showed also, you can use a term called zero-shot learning. That means you don't need, this model does not need any further data to understand the work that you're asking the model to do. It's pre-trained already. It needs no further data. You don't have to retrain it. It's pre-trained, right? So hence the term zero-shot learning. It will just take time, look at the data and reflect, okay? So before I get into the demo, I'm sure all of you would know that GPT-4 was launched recently. And GPT-4 is the most factually right model, which basically, comes closer to the human intelligence in terms of reasoning, okay? Just look at this graph. This is basically, this information is from the GPT-4 paper published by OpenAI. Now, the green one is GPT-4, and the blue one is GPT-3.5. Now, by the way, looking at the true capability of GPT-4, somehow the 3.5 looks inferior, right? But the point to note here is GPT-4 surpasses 3.5 significantly, right? It has passed the bar exam. It has passed SAT exams, right? This is not something you can train with a few sample data from the past and make sure the model can solve for the future. No, it doesn't work that way. This is as good as saying, you know what, I'm going to show you the world. You build your intelligence basis, what is in the world, and bring the knowledge to the foray in a good way, because there's a lot of negativity also that can happen, right? So this is where OpenAI invested in what they call as reinforcement learning with human feedback. Human feedback means somebody is instructing the model as part of training, teaching the model, saying good and bad, right? That's what. So this is a true benchmark. I said reasoning brain. Let's move forward, right? Everything that we're talking in the current times, be it large language models, the outcome, it is actually manifested in what we call a reasoning engine, right? Very real example. I was present at another conference recently, and the customer said, "Hey, Sandeep, let's make it real. We're going to give you public data of a Titan industry as an asset and their performance in the last 10 years. This is publicly available, right? Their balance sheet, which like money control or whatever, right? Now they said, let's look at, you're saying it's reasoning engine. We'll give you a question. Why don't you show us how can we reason with it, right? Let's see if this model can respond to a few questions. Now, what you're seeing is an Excel sheet snapshot, but I'm taking the same data here, last 10 years of Titan as P&L data, and I'm showing this data to my GPT-4 assistant, right? And the question asked by an analyst is, hey, can you analyze share insights on the trend in EBITDA and working capital changes? Look, the model, my assistant, is basically beautifully explaining, narrating, basis the raw text that I've shown there, right? The text that I picked up from Excel sheet, I've copied that here for reference. This is a playground, by the way. In reality, you will automate that, but right now, right? Second, I'm asking, hey, will Titan do well in FY24? But the model says, hey, I don't have FY24 projection, so I can't predict. So the point I want to draw here is what we're seeing here is a generative model, not a predictive model. The projection is something the model can reflect and reason with you, but cannot predict, right? If you want the model to predict or rather project for the future, you will have to basically, I'm sure, if you look at every business, you will have forecasting models built, regression models built, right? So the outcome of that is what you can also feed in here. See, what happened here is I asked the question, the future projection FY24 model said, I don't have information, so I can't reason with you. But of course, I can give you a few insights how you should look at future in terms of Titan's performance. But what if I want the model to reflect on future of a Titan, right? That means I have given historical performance of Titan Industries here. I can also add output from my predictive model as a prompt to the same model here, same question here, and ask the question. That means I'm going to supply output from my predictive model as input to this particular prompt. Let's look at that, right? I'm going to go back here, and I have a model which has given me Titan's FY24 performance. I'm adding that here, right? What you saw here is for the same prompt, assistant prompt, which had last 10 years financial data. At the end, I'm saying, hey, Titan will do well. This is the gross revenues they do in FY24 fiscal. Now I'm going to go back, right, and ask the same question. Now that the model has the projection that can give a forecasting model. Now let's see. See, now it says, based on the information provided, I can make projections for FY24, right? So it can only do projections after you supplied what will be the future of this particular, in this particular stuff, an asset in terms of performance. That means, again, it's a reasoning brain, not a predictive brain, right? You can reason with it as long as you can give data. Any data doesn't matter, but as long as you have data, you can ask question. But the question also depends on what you want to get out of it. And again, the model is smart enough to tell you, hey, I don't have the data for you to respond to a question, right? That's plain English. Moving forward. So I said GPT-4 is the most factually, I would say, right model. You heard Beru talk about hallucination, model being incorrect. Absolutely. But is there a dramatic improvement in how GPT-4 least hallucinates or least deviates from the fact? Absolutely. It's a lot more accurate in that context, right? That means, by the way, when we say factually right, we're talking about the fact that you as an individual, in the previous case, and I showed the model, the Titan industry last 10 years data, right? My question was analyze this on EBITDA and working up changes. Now, as part of responding to my question, if it deviates from the data I've shown, that means it won't be factually right. When the model is factually right, means the model will not deviate from the fact I'm showing as a prompt, right? That means data is something which I show the model. If it deviates in response to me, it moves towards hallucination. That means it's fictitiously responding to my question. Okay, so GPT-4 is multimodal. In ChatGPT, all you've seen is text in, text out, right? But we live in a world where data variety. There is images, there is videos and audios and whatnot. Can I give them as input, reason with it? Absolutely, that's the future. So right now, GPT-4, the private beta supports image in and reason with it. Let's look at a few examples here. This is an image which has daily meat consumption. By the way, the source is GPT-4 paper from OpenAI. Now, there's a graph here in terms of across 3 regions, right? The question we ask in the model is, what are the sum of average daily meat consumption for Georgia and Western Asia? Provide a step-by-step reasoning, right? The answer from GPT-4, look, it can be as detailed as possible. And this is the true power of these models, right? It says, first of all, to find sum of average daily meat consumption, you're supposed to do 1, 2, 3, and then it explains that, right? This is the true generative power on visual images or data given. Let me show another example. This probably, in my view, is beautiful. We always seen the power of computer vision in terms of giving visual inputs and it identifies objects, etc. But this is beyond that. I'm asking a question saying, what would happen if the strings were cut? Right? It comes back and says balloon would fly away. This is pure reasoning. Another example, what happens when the glove drops? Right? This is again little bit of a logic here, right? Like a puzzle. And the model says, leave the wooden plank and ball will fly up. Now, who doesn't like this one? You're taking a picture, right? We're talking about visual abstract reasoning. I'm taking a picture from a refrigerator and saying, hey, what meals can I cook from this? And it says you can use yogurt parfait and carrot and hummus wrap. So this is basis what's visible there. The model is recommending me, hey, you can cook these things. Isn't that cool, right? This is the future. Now, let's look at it. Another cool capability of this model called, you can actually put guardrails, right? In fact, Sam Altman was at the Senate Congress hearing last week, right? He was one of the witnesses to talk about regulation. Now, lot of time was spent to talk about how can you put guardrails, right? Let me show you what it really means in reality. Now, ChatGPT interface, very familiar one. I'm asking a question saying, yes, solve this linear equation for me, right? The model beautifully solved. In fact, Beirut said in his initial, I would say, keynote that academia will use it, in good ways and in bad ways. People might start asking answers to ChatGPT, which they're supposed to solve it. All this will happen. But look, there's another beautiful innovation which basically is being built by Khan Academy as a good example of how we can put guardrails, right? I'm going to show what Khan Academy is eventually doing, but this is the direction. That means you can put guardrails or basically instruct the model what to do, what not to do. Here I'm instructing GPT-4 saying, hey, GPT-4, you're a tutor and you're supposed to operate like a Socratic style. That means you'll never give an answer to a student. You always guide the student to the answer. It's almost like it's basically between a teacher and a student. It's a conversation, right? Let's look at that. I've given the prompt on the left-hand side, you see in the window here. Now the same equation I'm asking the model, hey model, solve this for me. The model says, what happens? It's asking me a question. I'm saying, you tell me because I need answer. It says, what do you think should be the result? It's questioning back at me, right? So now I'm saying, hey, I have assignment to solve. Please get my answer right away. I don't want to kind of interact further, right? It doesn't give up. It says, I understand for sure, but I'm trying to help you solve the problem, right? This is the true model behaving as per instruction. I'm saying, stop acting like a tutor, get me the answer, right? It says, I apologize, blah, 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 whatever, right? So eventually I say, please, you have to listen to me. It says, I understand your frustration, but eventually, you know what? This is basically the model behaving within a guardrail. So now, of course, eventually I said, okay, let's solve the problem. And because I wanted to kind of, this is coaxing me to solve rather than asking for answer, right? Now, if you look at this statement, I'm solving it here in terms of giving a response. It's 21, but I put 20. But the model says, well done, but I was wondering why. But certainly it puts me a message saying, hey, be careful with the multiplication. It's 20, not 21. It's 21, not 20, right? So the conversation will go like this. So yes, this is called stability. You can put guardrails. This is where the future would be, okay? Another innovation, code generation, right? Before I have 5 minutes to go, I'm going to just do this one last example and then get to probably the most important, I would say, innovation that we've seen so far, and we look at that. Now, this is, again, natural language to code. I have a prompt here which says I need to generate a web page, right? Basically, I want to generate a web page which helps me create a family tree. Now, the model, as moment I put the prompt, it's basically going forward and basically giving me, hey, did you mean you want to generate this website with this example? I said, absolutely. Now I'm going to invoke my Copilot. I'm going to ask the Copilot, hey, Copilot, this is again in VS Code. This is GitHub Copilot X. I'm asking the question, to generate a web page for me in Python, basis the prompt I've given above, right? This is Copilot X, which is powered by GPT-4. It beautifully gets me my Python web page, which is a Flask-based web page, right? Now I can run this, right? I can run this, and you'll see in a few seconds, and it's going to give me URI where I can go and run this. And when I run it, of course, the UI comes in, very basic UI because there's a very simple example I'm doing. And in the UI, I intentionally basically do a mistake, right? I'm going to enter my name there, and of course, for relationship, I enter text instead of a number, and it throws me exception in a few seconds. And yes, this is the problem, right? And how to fix it? So I basically asked my Copilot, hey Copilot, I got this exception while I was writing this code. Can you help me? Why does the exception occur? Simple question being asked. This is the future of how you build code. You converse with your Copilot saying, help me there. Many times we get stuck in smaller issues, wasting hours together. So this is where Copilot comes in handy. Now I'm saying, hey, you know what? Give me a Java equivalent of this particular Python code, right? Simple one question being asked, and it basically gets me a Java equivalent, right? This is the future. This is basically conversation to code. Let's move forward. Now, what we have in front of us is, as I said earlier, this is truly path breaking. This is the most important time in the history where each one of us have these AI models as platform, right? Now, when I say platform, we are providers and there are creators who create innovative stuff. In fact, what Gupshup has done today is truly an innovator in the making, truly a creativity at its best, where they've taken this AI model as a platform and built something very beautiful, very meaningful, right? So we have GPT-4, we have DALL-E and ChatGPT, right? These innovations in front of us. GPT-4 definitely does, it is multimodal, right? In addition to everything I've showcased, right? The future is where you can give an input beyond text and images, audio, video, etc. That comes in handy. DALL-E, of course, is visual art, and ChatGPT is conversational. Now, this is basically is a reality, right? As part of our partnership with OpenAI, yes, we are innovating as Microsoft. We basically have provided a massive AI supercomputer for OpenAI to train the large language models. By the way, ChatGPT and all the LLMs running on Azure infrastructure, which is what we built for OpenAI. And of course, the best part is all of the large language models are first-class citizens natively available on Azure that you can use it under Azure OpenAI service, right? Now, it matters. It matters in how you build softwares. It matters in terms of how, when people are using software, how the model behaves. So this is where responsible AI comes in. Every single, I would say, prompt that user is giving to the mission, right? Whether using in a healthcare scenario or insurance, doesn't matter. But those prompts go into what we call as, I would say, content moderation. And content moderation is relentlessly done behind the scenes to ensure that the question is not asked in a negative context, and the response going back doesn't harm anybody. It's ethically right? Those are the stuff which goes into the making. But before I have a minute to go before I close in, I want to basically show one, I would say, peek into visuals. I would say this is a short video, 90-second video. I'm going to come back and close it. But this visual is classic manifestation of how we as Microsoft are using these large language models and looking at empowering individuals with co-pilots, right? Imagine you're in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and Teams. What if we give you a co-pilot which helps you reason with information you already have, right? We all know that data is omnipresent. Insights are elusive, right? There are tasks that you want, hey, wish somebody could do it for me, kind of a scenario. So that's where this comes in handy. And I'm going to basically play that. And I think I've enabled audio, but if not, just let me know. Let me play this video for you. Right? So this is the future. Future is around the corner. But here is an interesting one, right? I said earlier, as Microsoft, we are the platform provider. We're the creators of this platform. But innovation happens from our partners, right? Gupshup is one of the elite partners here, who basically are innovating using AI model as a platform, right? If you're looking at Autobot Builder, and if that innovation exists today, again, thanks to all the AI engineers working at Gupshup who basically leverage these AI models as a platform, right, and build something really meaningful. By the way, ChatGPT is an application built again on AI model as a platform, right? Likewise, Gupshup's Auto Builder is an application built on top of AI model as a platform. So this is a partnership that will go a long way ahead in ensuring that Microsoft and Gupshup can empower customers to build meaningful conversations going forward. With that, thank you so much for your time today. It's been my pleasure being part of the event and talk to all of you this evening. With that, Aparna, back to you.
Yeah, Sandeep, thank you. While we still have you here, we have a lot of questions from the audience as well. Hope my audio is fine. So I'll just read out the first one. So Can you discuss any ongoing or future research initiative related to advancing the capabilities of language models like GPT-4 at Microsoft?
Yeah. So see, GPT-4 is probably what 6 months old baby right now. The whole innovation on large language models, though it's been there for a long time, the true general availability happened in the month of January. So ton of work is underway, right? As Microsoft and OpenAI, ton of work is underway, and you'll see, not too far in the future, innovations being put out. In fact, yesterday, Build conference, I would highly encourage that you just go and look at highlights of Build conference. 50 plus announcements, and all of them had element of AI, right? And in fact, Satya Nadella shared his top 5, and truly, it takes. I feel outdated today from what I heard yesterday in terms of knowledge. So, ton of innovation happening, but trust me, this is a reality. GPT-4 is in private preview. GPT-4 does magic, but 3.5 is equally powerful. So, if you want to innovate on something, right? 3.5 is absolutely there for you to start using it and build it. Of course, 4 will only make it better and better. But 4 is where we're seeing innovation happening. It's a private preview. When it becomes public, it will be a lot more richer and meaningful.
Okay. Another question is, can this technology analyze the stock market data in real time and show the trends that are going on in real time? I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah. So here's the deal, right? By the way, this model does not have legs, right? It can't crawl on its own and look up information. If you bring in any information, you can reason with it, right? For example, in the last 10 minutes, just look up what's been bought and sold. You can ask question on that. Of course, if you can bring in last 10 years data, hey, by the way, this is historical data. Also keep in mind what has happened in the last 10 minutes. Can you help me answer this question of mine? Model will do it. Model will not predict the future. Model cannot tell you, hey, you should bet on this because blah, blah, blah. No, that's a forecasting. So the point is, as I showed the example earlier, Titan Industry example, you bring in forecasting output into this particular context, the model can reason with you. Yeah.
Great. And there's also a lot of questions, and I would say also questions around Copilot. So there's one about L&D professionals, and if you have any relevant prompt library that could help them create AI-enabled learning experiences. So
yeah. No, absolutely. See, we're entering an era where, again, everybody said this. I'm going to say this again. English is the most powerful language, right? Of course, it will be multilingual in future, but right now, for us to reason with this brain, you need to be good at prompting, right? Learning and development. Yes, if you're looking at, I need to have a tutor. By the way, if you look at Khan Academy example, they built a tutor for students. It's called Khanmigo. Now, that tutor makes conversation intuitive. That means it's going to reason with you. Likewise, for L&D, you should build something meaningful. You can build something meaningful on top of AI model as a platform where using, let's say, Gupshup conversation agent, you'll be able to build something meaningful for L&D where it acts like a teacher, something that it can become a tutor for somebody. Absolutely. So huge opportunity for L&D, massive opportunity, honestly. Education, L&D, and any industry, be it healthcare, retail, doesn't matter about L&D and learning. Generative AI will be a biggest, I would say, blessing in disguise for everybody.
Great. Thanks, Sandeep. The session was really insightful. I'm sure we've all learned a lot. I'm sure the audience, just going by the number of questions, we'll probably forward it to you. If you do have some time, you can maybe take a look later. But thank you so much for taking the time and being part of the session.
Wonderful. Pleasure is mine. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and have a wonderful rest of the sessions. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Gaurav Kachawa, Chief Product Officer at Gupshup. Welcome to the webinar. I'll open it up by sharing a few thoughts on the impact that ChatGPT and generative AI are having on the enterprises. So let's start by discussing what's all the hype around generative AI. So it's roughly been about 6 months since ChatGPT launched, and we've all seen how it's taken the world by the storm. There is not a single day where we're not seeing headlines how ChatGPT is disrupting an existing industry use case, new scenarios, new innovations that are being built. And that's also driving a lot of traction for this technology. So it has been the fastest to get to 1 million users in about 5 days, and crossed about 100 million users in just 2 months. This level of growth is unprecedented and not something that we see every day. Now, the reasons why it's been so successful, there are many reasons, as ChatGPT itself answers that question. But number one is ease of use. A kid or an elementary school student can also pick it up and start chatting with it in the language they prefer. And there can't be an interface that is as intuitive and easy as ChatGPT. So that's one of the reasons why it's driving such a fast adoption. And also it's setting up a new bar for how uh, consumers expect to interact with technology in terms of digital channels. So that's going to be a profound change in terms of consumer expectations. Number two, it's versatile and multi-purpose chatbot. So the use cases that it enables are mind-boggling, from text generation to image generation to Q&A, summarization, sentiment analysis, search, just you name it. There's just so many use cases. Obviously, some of them can be experienced through the interface, but through API, you can enable a lot of these things and make your products richer. So that's another reason why it's just been so popular. Now, AI has been growing over the years. Since 1950, there's been research happening, but something happened around 2017 when it was they call it the tipping point in AI. And a couple of things happened. I think the most important one was the transformer architecture. The paper "Attention is all you need" was seminal, and it forms the foundation of LLMs even today. The second thing was the compute and data catching up. So the compute requirements for training large language models has been going up over the years. And as you can see, with GPT-4, it's reached a pretty different levels of investment that you need to make, hundreds of millions of dollars to train those models. Also, we have seen the scale of number of parameters in large language models. And as you've seen, it has gone, GPT-3 was 175 billion parameters, and now it's gone to over, estimates are over trillion plus parameters in these models. So why do parameters matter? One of the research papers which talks about the emergent abilities of large language models talks about how, as some of the number of parameters have grown, the capabilities of some of these models in terms of accuracy has suddenly spiked, which tells you that some of these capabilities were not possible when the models were smaller. Now, is there a linear scale in which, as you get more parameters, does the accuracy continues to increase? That's open to debate. But clearly, we have seen that there is a lot more capabilities coming up with these large models that have over trillion parameters. Now, shifting gears to the enterprise impact, what does all this advancement in Gen AI mean for the enterprises? So the question is not what can enterprises do with generative AI. The question we should be asking is what can't enterprises do with generative AI? Specifically from Gupshup's point of view, we look at digital transformation. How are businesses digitizing their touch points with the customer, whether it is for marketing, conducting commerce, or taking care of their customers post-transaction. And whether it's acquisition, engagement, conversions, upsell, FAQs, all these journeys can be automated through messaging medium. And today you see a lot of different messaging mediums, whether it's SMS, voice, WhatsApp, Instagram, Google RCS, so on and so forth, in terms of how consumers are engaging with businesses. But now these can be automated through not only simple bots, but also through smart AI-driven conversations, so that the interaction that consumers have with the businesses can be human-like, and there can be empathy, and the bots can represent not only the full knowledge and wisdom of the company or the business process, but also bring the right tone and sentiment that reflects your brand. So, examples could be product Q&A, support, FAQs, which is very normal in terms of driving through AI, but also employee engagement, product recommendations, troubleshooting. So just endless use cases. Now, Gupshup has been, one of the first player to launch generative AI for enterprise use. We launched a product called Autobot Builder, and the team will give a demo and talk more in detail. But we launched it in Jan, and very quickly after the ChatGPT launch, and we've had just tremendous demand for the product. We have had so many demos, several customers are going live with it, and we'll give you a peek into it. But at the highest level, what it allows us to do is take the enterprise knowledge base, whether it's website, documents, logs, any system of records, use our domain expertise, and fine tunes the LLMs that are available publicly, whether they are OpenAI or some of the open source models as well. And based on that, we can create we have created a Autobot builder technology that can create bots in a matter of minutes. So you point the Autobot builder to the right knowledge base, and it can create a bot in minutes that you can deploy, and it features the same simplicity and accuracy and depth. Now, some of the enterprise technology, when you bring this technology to enterprises, some of the things you have to take care of is the guardrails, the eliminating hallucinations, data privacy, all those areas that we have spent tremendous amount of effort on, and the team will give you a demo and peek into how we make that happen. But hopefully you'll find this exciting, and look forward to having these conversations with you. Thank you.
So building bots was very comprehensive, and I'm sure all of you in the audience have tried your hand at building a bot. So it basically amounts to having a bunch of trained data. Someone has to curate it, and then you have to train a model, and then test, infer, and then move back and forth, right? So the Autobot builder kind of simplifies this to a very a bunch of simple steps, which even a business user themselves can kind of set up their own bot very quickly. So all you need to do is give your bot a name, talk about the description in a bit of detail, select the languages which you would choose, the data sources which you would kind of need to make the bot work on, for example, a website, documents, even a bunch of CSV data, and then set some controls on the hallucination side and accuracy, and then you are good to go. So it's very simple bunch of steps. Within, if you have a small website, within 5 minutes, you have bot running, which you can then take the code snippet and put on your website, on your mobile app. The large website takes about 20 minutes for us to kind of scrape the entire website, normalize the data, train it, and then you're good to go, right? And the key aspects of this is multilingual. So you can kind of chat with the bot in English, Arabic, and any of the languages which the OpenAI foundational model support. And then we have the required admin controls on top of it to kind of so that make it suitable for enterprises. Yeah. So generative AI is a very it's infancy, but the sheer amount of use cases which it supports is exponentially growing day by day, right? For example, so as we were talking about on the Autobot builder, the first product line in that platform was the enterprise Q&A. So it can and this can be extended to customer support. So also as self-service for customers coming to a website or mobile app and asking questions, getting answers. And this conversation can be done very naturally and very contextually. This also can be used in call centers. So today call centers have a very high cost with regards to agents, sitting and answering questions. So this can kind of work in an agent assist mode, where it can help the agent improve productivity, or it itself directly answer questions on voice and chat, etc. A lot of employee engagement and HR tasks can be kind of built on the Autobot platform. So employees have multiple queries on policies. They want to raise a leave request. So all of this can be driven by the Autobot platform. And again, it's not just about customer support, and as the Microsoft rep demonstrated, it can do a lot of, so the OpenAI can do a lot of reasoning as well. So we have also kind of built the right prompts for lead generation. So it can act as a sales assist rather than just answering questions. And similarly, it can help discover products, make recommendations. And this is just, just the tip of the iceberg. The whole bunch of other use cases, which is possible on the generative AI stack and the Gupshup Autobot builder platform. So my colleague Girish will just explain the reasons of the differences between using a foundational LLM, that is the APIs available from Microsoft or Palm or any other open source model, versus an enterprise solution built on top of that, that is the Autobot builder. Girish, over to you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Parikshit. So I'm going to just go through a few slides just to understand a bit more details technically. So this, so we picked up 4 parameters to compare Autobot Builder and the foundation model. So, it could be ChatGPT, it could be Palm, or it could be any of the open source models available out there. So data sources. So foundation models are actually trained with publicly available data. You can also pick it up to train your own data to make it better. So what we've done with Autobot is we've basically picked up, in an enterprise, we can pick up any kind of data, starting from documents connected to CMS, to a database, to even logs of customer contact logs from past. And even in some cases, if you want to host it on-prem, to use customer private information as well. And so the more data you give it, the better it gets. In terms of hallucination and relevancy, ChatGPT 3, GPT 4, and I'm sure there'll be more models coming out in future. It'll get better and better, but you still need controls around those models because there is a limit to what the foundation models can do. They're trained to do certain tasks well, but they can't do everything to make it ready for an enterprise. So you have to build systems. You have to have a pipeline of prompts. You must have various other algorithms to actually control what the model is actually giving at the end. In terms of, you'll always have situations where you have to control what your chatbot or email or a voice bot actually produces towards the end. So that control also has to be with the enterprise. So, for example, if a user asks something about an FAQ, or user want to go through a certain steps, you want a control over the steps and respond the user in a certain way. So that control has to be with the organization, and that's what Autobot Builder gives on top of the foundation model. In terms of enterprise readiness, you still need analytics. You still need further fine-tuning, self-learning. You need testing, and you need a whole studio to control your conversation, from FAQs to support questions. So that whole studio, that whole suite of products, which is the conversational middleware plus the foundation model, is packaged together in Autobot Builder. So you can see there is a stark difference between just the foundation model and all the other tooling which is available on top of it with Autobot Builder. If you can go to this. So I think all the speakers before me have actually touched upon the AI guardrails. I think, and this has been actually worked on at different levels from Microsoft and in open source. So at Gupshup, we're actually looking at these 6 main items, right? So to start with, you need to have a model which actually stays in topic. So any conversation which you have needs to be in the topic. Like, for example, if you ask suddenly to a banking bot, how to make pizza, it should not be giving you a recipe of making pizza, right? So that is completely off topic. It's got a lot of implications to the organization. So that is controlled. You must have contextual answers. So in the natural conversation, you will always shift your topic. You'll come back to the topic. You would actually say only part of it. So all that needs to be handled properly in a contextual kind of manner. So that is handled in Autobot. Data storage and residency. We've had really a lot of interest in the previous slide. Like we said, we had 1,500 demos so far. And a constant question which we get from our clients, enterprise clients, is where is the data stored and where is the data residency, right? So there are still legal issues which they have to actually comply to. And Autobot Builder actually solves many of those problems. And the same thing is for data privacy. Customer PII information is still a legal thing which enterprises have to solve. And Autobot Builder actually solves it in many ways. We also give options to host it on-prem as well. So we have built Gupshup LLM, and we've been working on it for the last 6 months. We looked at, and it's mainly based on open source. So this is basically, we pick up open source models which have actually evolved over the last 6 months, fine-tune with our models, and we even change the model to actually give better results and cater it for our use case. Like, it could be, and for our domains, it could be a specialized model for commerce, specialized model for a line of business, like, customer service. So there are different ways of how you can cut it. LLMs, Gupshup LLM gives you the continuous improvement. So data constantly, you can actually constantly improve the model, the more data you feed in. You also have data privacy and security thing, which we talked about in the previous slide, because you can actually host it on-prem. You can mix and match the models, so you don't have to use just the Gupshup model or certain model. You can actually mix it up with OpenAI or any other model. So that flexibility is available. Some of the larger clients, especially government, banking, telco, they can invest a lot of money and time to customize models. So the Gupshup LLM actually allows you, big clients, to actually customize the model for their use case. It is also cost effective, and we would probably see there's a trend of the API costs of the major players is reducing over time, and I think the inference efficiency will also improve. Some of the hardware providers like NVIDIA also has a lot of accelerators to make it faster and cheaper. Having an open source model also gives you some kind of control in and explaining and testing it with different parameters to see if there are any biases and what kind of responses it is going to give. Right? So all this is in a small or big way is actually covered in Gupshup LLM. What is coming up in the next couple of quarters? These are the main themes. We may add to it, and as more open source stuff comes out. So autonomous conversation AI is a big thing. I think probably a lot of us have actually heard about AutoGPT. So it can actually, it is something where you can chain the prompts, it can reason, and it can create new prompts to solve a problem. So we're building something, a similar feature to it in our platform. So where the AI can actually reason by itself to get to a goal. Conversation analytics is something which is already in early beta right now. It's able to, we can have systems which can ingest a lot of simple plain data from database or worksheets.
So so with all the things that that Microsoft has come in, Sandeep has come in with, and what Girish has showed, what this enables us to do is deploy GPT-based virtual assistants on multiple surfaces like web and WhatsApp and Line and Telegram, multiple conversational surfaces. This is one of the live examples. This is live for a government agency in Dubai, where we'll be able to see that if you go to their website, this is obviously mobile website, but you can go on the normal website as well, where you can ask questions to this company without this authority needing to make their data AI ready. So their data lies in a lot of different places, in a lot of different formats. But as you can see here, you can ask questions, switch context, and also have context transferred to the next question. So for example, if I ask, hey, if I have previous dues, can you give me a new connection? What the platform will say, yes, no, I can't give you a new connection. However, I can give you a payment plan if you need help, right? So if you see here, it says, hey, we can't give you. However, there is a payment plan that you can opt for. And then I can just simply say, hey, what payment plans? And now it already knows that I am looking for help in terms of financials.
So if I say what payment plans, it already knows it's about an electricity connection. So it's able to go ahead and give us a lot of different context and a lot of different options up here. Plus, it then redirects the user back to the actual page where this payment plan can be applied. This is web-based. Now we'll also look at a very specific application for internal facing employees, which is where a very specific amount of information is required and a very specific amount of information is provided. So in this example, if you see a user, or this is aimed at sales enablement. So the sales teams and new joinees are generally encouraged to ask questions around how would you like to pitch a product of this company. So this is around insurance. So where I can, as an employee, I can ask, what can I pitch to a 35-year-old male who is a smoker but wants a short cover of 1 crore over a specific term. I haven't specified a term here. So what the platform is able to do is look at specific information up here and then start giving you information around, hey, yes, this is a pitch. Here's an email, and it already drafts an email for you. Now, as you can see here, this is now getting very specific about where do you want to insert contact details, because this is following the marketing framework of how pitch emails from our company should be. Now I'm quickly changing context, saying, hey, okay, about 35-year-old smoker man, but hey, I also have another female student who's just starting her first job. Do we have something? So what the platform is able to do is figure out that this is a student who's just looking at a job. So what this platform is able to do is first figure out, hey, I understand that students need more income. So there's a fortune guarantee plan for young professionals. And then it's able to also give you another pitch, which you can use. And obviously it's a self-fulfilling loop. So if you say, yes, I'm satisfied with this answer, this gives the model more confidence to answer similar questions later, right? So, I mean, we can go on, but in the interest of time, I'm going to move this a little bit ahead where I can say, hey, can you write me a specific email, which is not a pitch, but an introductory email. So the platform is able to switch context again and then go ahead. So for example, I'll just skip this ahead to show you that if I say, hey, can you write me an email? The platform will be able to go ahead and give this context to the user. Another example is a very specific example for commerce applications where where WhatsApp specifically has a lot of commerce related native UI, where you can not only have questions but also have matching products in a catalog natively built into WhatsApp. So you can provide lots of context around why do I need a specific product. So it says, hey, I'm going to beach tomorrow. Can you give me a good sunscreen? It says, yes, here's my sunscreen. It has SPF 60. And then it also gives a native catalog experience up here, where you'll be able to go ahead and add this to cart, pay it right here. And if you saw the model, the product description is in Portuguese, but I can still ask questions in English. That's where Gupshup brings in a lot of value add on not having the extra work for you to make your data AI ready. We can basically start creating models based on just unstructured data. These are some examples, and now I will probably spend just a little bit on showing you the actual backend which we were seeing in a lot of different examples here. So as you can see, this is our backend where we are able to go ahead and provide a lot of guardrails and also merge a lot of different content types to make sure that the model is specifically answering from enterprise data sources and not from the entire internet that ChatGPT is built on. So you can provide a bot name, you can provide a description, and in this description, you can see that, hey, I'm saying, hey, you're only going to provide answers about Gupshup and how the platform operates. I can have fun. I can say answer like a pirate, and this will automatically give it a specific character. We can marry three different types of sources. So you can obviously give it a whole URL. So it can be internet or intranet URLs. We can dump lots of chat dumps and email dumps up here, and also upload CSVs, Excels, PDFs, etc. The platform is able to take all of these three, build up a confidence value model, and then decide to answer how to answer these questions. Not only that, but hallucination control was a very deeply technical feature, which now we have democratized into just this one slider. You don't actually have to look at any code at all. All you have to do is figure out, if you're a commerce company who only wants to look at just your products, you make it full strict. But for example, if you're a publication company who would like to provide extra information or extra sources, you can make it fully lenient. So it depends on what your use case is, what your context is, who are you building this for. The hallucination control is now condensed into one single slider. We also provide, as you saw in Tata AIA example, we were able to provide a huge email draft right inside WhatsApp. However, if you looked at commerce, where reading may not be the final thing I want to do as a user, so I can have short or long answers. This will automatically adjust the number of tokens that we are exchanging with the generative models. We also support multiple languages. So as long as the source data exists in all of these languages, the models can be built on these languages. Plus, we have inbuilt translation, which will, as you saw in the commerce example, I was asking questions in English, but the product descriptions were in Portuguese. So the translation layer is also built in. Plus, we are able to go ahead and provide multiple accuracy models based on the impact and the final result accuracy that we're looking for. So all we have to do is just click on update bot, and this bot is ready to go. That's the very 10,000 or 50,000 feet overview of how this platform works and what have been the real life deployments so far.
So our next session is a fireside chat with Abhineet Sarkar and Vartika Varma. Already introduced them, but Abhineet has over a decade of experience in the BFSI space. He's an innovation leader, and he's always an early adopter to technologies like generative AI. Vartika Varma heads marketing for Gupshup. So over to you, Vartika.
Great. Thanks, everyone. And thank you to everyone who stayed back for this exciting session. So it's always a pleasure to speak with real businesses who are working with real tech. And thanks for joining in, Abhineet. Are you able to hear us? You're on mute.
Yes, hi, Vartika. I'm pretty much, I think I'm audible into this. Yes. I can hear you pretty well.
Awesome. So just to kickstart, Abhineet, we heard about what Microsoft is doing in the space, not just with GPT-3, but 4 and 5 as well. We also heard from the Gupshup team on how they are building enterprise-grade chatbots, leveraging Autobot Builder. And one thing that is really striking about just the whole space of generative AI is that if you look back, Twitter took almost 10 months or 12 months to hit 1 million users, Facebook around 9 months, and ChatGPT just 5 days. So Abhineet, what's your view on the latest emerging tech, generative AI, and how are businesses looking at this new tech?
Yeah, thank you, Vartika, and thank you for having me. And you are very right, to mention that generative AI has been socialized in a way which I don't think any tech would have been. The last I remember where people who would have been pretty excited about getting a graphic user interface moving out of their DOS prompt and getting a graphic user interface on their computers. So to mention that, I would say yes, it has been the biggest inflection point for generative AI being hugely socialized across. Everyone is using it. It's like how WhatsApp has been there, or any other social chat is there. People are very comfortable using it. I think once a tech reaches to that stage, we know that it is going to do something big in there, right? So coming back to what I think as a scope for generative AI, I would say that it cut across the entire value chain of insurance today, right? Starting from how you capture leads, how you do your underwriting, how you service your policies, everything can be taken care of. The generative AI. There's always a scope of generative AI, right? So, for example, I can think of when you're trying to source someone from a specific channel, you need to be there at the right time and the right place. So, as of now, it's something we are dependent on certain set of parameters that it has to be either it's organic search or somewhere I need to be present. But how I think generative AI can disrupt that entire area is that whenever you're if someone is trying to understand a particular document or trying to understand a huge set of document given to them, he may not have time to go do a search and identify, specifically point out, write it on any of the search engine and get result out of it. I think the intent of generative AI is to create a concise way of making things pretty simple for everyone. So if I am making the thing simpler for my customer, I am capturing the lead at that point of time. Also, insurance being a very agent driven business as well, we always expect that there should be someone who should ask me the right set of questions. We I I don't think that bot is right now capable enough to sell any policies. There's always a human requirement which always creeps in. And the moment we are able to capture that area wherein the bot is able to ask me the right set of questions, do an analysis of my right set of data, create an underwriting rule basis that, create a risk profile of the customers, then it can definitely recommend a product to me. So that's the second area of the value chain, which I think that recommending a product basis of profile, asking right questions at the right time is also something the generative AI has the capability to do so. And the third major intent is, I would say, at least in the insurance space, is on the claims management, which is something where everyone has to be a bit empathetic. And if I talk about life insurance space, everyone has to empathize with the customer who they are interacting with. So, a right intent of language as well as voice is also something which need to be inculcated with the generative AI. So altogether, I think these are the pretty broad scope which I think generative AI can bring change into.
Absolutely. And one thing before your session that Sandeep from Microsoft was talking about is that people have taken to at a mass level to GPT-3 or ChatGPT is because everything came in a very concise interface. And with that interface, when the larger public has experienced the power of GPT-3, they're actually expecting similar kind of outcomes to come from brands that they engage with. So I won't be surprised if your customers are already asking for, hey, can I just chat, ask a question, and get relevant products recommended. So I'm sure it's not too far out in the future that this innovation would be possible. And I think in some of the demos that Advait was showing, it's actually a reality. Commerce journeys are being fulfilled with generative AI. So yeah, that's an exciting time ahead. So
I'm pretty sure, even I think, right, Vartika. So sorry, I was saying that cold calling is a passe now, right? It's like you cannot depend on cold calling nowadays. It has, as I was mentioning, that to recommend product, your bot should be capable enough to ask the questions at the right time, and it should be so humanoid in nature that when I'm speaking like I and you are speaking, that's how the bot should be in future, and that's a capability I think the language models have.
Absolutely. So, Abhineet, with all of these developments that are happening and a lot of real deployments as well that are happening, are you seeing that there is a considerable amount of betterment in customer experience leveraging generative AI? And if so, what are some of the early signs that you've seen in the market?
Yeah, I think for to leverage the customer experience, as I was mentioning, like how generative AI can look into. I try to bifurcate it in a way that the basic intent of enhancing any customer experience is, the first is a discovery, right? You need to discover what the customer actually wants, right? Till now, what we have been doing is it's our thought process, it's our data, what we are envisaging, and then trying to connect to our customers. Now, I think generative AI, how it can help us in getting a discovering about a particular requirement of a customer. For example, taking in health insurance as an example, we wear a lot of health bands. Right? If there is a way, it's continuously taking my data, reading and analyze my data in a way that the person, and okay, this is your health activity, what you're doing today. Today I don't have to depend on any system. The generative AI is capable enough to assess this kind of discovery and tell me, okay, you are in need of going to visit a hospital, or you are in need of buying this particular product. So that's where I am understanding and discovering my customers requirement. So that's enhancing my customer experience in one way. The second thing I see under the discovery is data analyzing, right? There are huge set of data which usually we used to depend on putting it in a machine learning model and then try to assess it and create certain output of that. But I think with the generative AI, the data analysis has been, the whole intent has been changed. It's not like just OCR your data and get something to it. Today, if I give a garbage in, so normally AI works like in a GIGO model, right? Garbage in and garbage out. Whatever you give, it's going to give you out, right? But with the generative AI, I think even if you're putting a garbage in and you're asking them to give a right set of answer, it is able to give you and create some responses in that way as well. So that's it's kind of a risk in a way, but I think that data analyzing has been pretty much enhanced, and that is going to enhance your customer experience. The third thing I think which I see is more of a dissemination of information, which is going to how the generative AI is going to help into that is you don't need any manual intervention to, let's say, create a particular quote for a policy or a premium or a business illustration, what we call is an insurance parlance, that create a certain quote for anyone, right? It is something can be done quickly with the generative AI. If I teach them that this is how my entire quote structure looks like, why can't you generate and create? I'm really sorry for the disturbance. I'm in an event, so that's how it is. But I hope I'm audible somehow.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I think that dissemination of information at the right time, using your right data analysis and without any manual intervention, is also going to enhance the entire customer experience. And the last thing I think we should not forget is the direction, that you have to direct your responses as well. You have to give the right kind of feedback to your responses as well. You just cannot depend on what is being given as an output to you. So I think that's how the whole entire journey of customer experience is going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, sort of launching, testing, fine tuning, scaling, those are all, the necessary parts to, building a successful generative AI experience. And I think a lot of brands are awakening to it when they're saying that, a bot or a conversational AI interface is never a done project. It has to be constantly improved, sort of loop in information from the humans. So yeah, very rightly said, Abhineet. And one point that you mentioned about garbage in and yet beautiful output out. So one question I had for you and for the audience here is, what should the brands or enterprises do today to be, more future ready for GPT 4, 5, 6, and the series that are yet to come? What on their part should they be doing better in terms of, building that database, repository, Q&As? Any thoughts there, Abhineet?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing what any corporates and enterprises can do is experiment, right? It's something you have to start inculcating in your organization, that okay, this is something is capable of doing what exactly people are experimenting it, but we should not stop experimenting in a way that uh, there are a lot of biases in the responses what we get. We are not sure about the how the accuracy is going to be, and because it itself is a learning model, we call it language learning, large language learning models as well, right? So these are themselves learning, and I think the only way as an enterprise I can think of experimenting it with as much as I can. And as I said, the last D of direction, giving the right sort of direction, hand holding your bot. It's you are expecting the bot to be an assistant to you, but I think the initial phase you have to be an assistant to your bot. You have to direct them that this is how it should be. I think the experimenting and directing them is something should be done in parallel.
Yep, that's a very good advice. And on that note, Abhineet, there are a lot of misconceptions, and I think we've also been asked a few questions about the guardrails, hallucinations, and generic fear about generative AI. What have you seen in the business since you're working in the BFSI segment? You must be seeing what are the what are the BFSI audience thinking about generative AI, the fears, misconceptions, and in general insecurities around it, and which of them do you feel are true and which of them are a myth?
I think even that was mentioned in the session just prior to this as well. I think the biggest fear for any BFSI is the data, right? The data privacy. That's where the entire thing resides. So in addition to your PII, that's the most critical thing. And I think in addition to PII, there are a lot of other valuable insights which is very confidential for the organization. So everyone is a bit concerned about if I talk about the fear, that's the biggest fear, that whatever data I'm sharing with OpenAI or the training the OpenAI, it should not be disclosed to the entire public, right? No one should be able to access it. No one should try to get a hands on it or get my business confidentiality into their systems. And it also delves into my internal peoples as well, right? So there are sort of structures what we have defined for our, let's say, for our employees or anyone else's, right? And I don't want that which is confidential to me. If an employee today of my organization or any organization is going and getting access to those data, is also a risk at me. So the biggest fear is the data privacy. And I think earlier getting into cloud was also something which BFSI, the segment, was very hesitant to move towards, right? But we have now seen a lot of businesses are moving towards the cloud's engagement. We see a lot of credit card servers are moving towards cloud, which earlier we could have not thought of going in. So I think with gradually, when we understand and realize the potential of this tech, the BFSI also opens up, and we find out the right sort of regulations which has to be framed so that we manage and maintain the data privacy as well. So that's the biggest fear, I would say. Uh, Talking about the certain misconceptions, Vatika, I think across the enterprise, what I have seen is which even I saw in few of the slides which you mentioned, that Gupshup is working in farm, then OpenAI not restricting themselves to one model. I think one of the misconceptions what a lot of enterprises have, that there are only set of generative AI or models which are currently there, which is there in the news. But I think there are many more models. We should be very much open to experiment with as many as language models. We should not restrict ourselves to one particular model. And I think there can be, we can think of it can be more of a very, I'm just being thinking out loud on this. We can have like an aggregated AI platform wherein, and when I say an aggregated AI platform, it is like an aggregated GPT platform where I have access to all the models together, and I try to use the model which is best suited for me, and that too can be recommended by a generative AI model as well. So for voice, let's say this X model is better, then it should readily move me to that particular model. For recommendation, this model is better. So I think then aggregated language model is something we should also look into creating very soon.
Great. Yeah, makes sense, Abhineet. So my final question to you is that with so much that's possible with generative AI, what do you think will be the top 3 use cases that the insurance industry adopts with generative AI in the coming future?
I think one is, of course, I would really like to see, a self-running and autonomous sales advisor, wherein it is talking to me like a, like an actual human agent. It asking me the right set of questions, giving me the right set of quotations to me, which, and if I'm able to at least achieve 70% of that part, wherein I don't need any human intervention, I think that's a very big achievement. Because today, even if I know everything about the policy, still I want to speak to someone, right? I think that's where one of the use case, which is largely can be very futuristic, and that will be like a game changer if you are able to crack that. Second thing, as I was mentioning, the initial time is the recommending the products. So that follows in a way that customer is very, they're very demanding at times, that I want a real time input to this. I want to change certain parameters and want to see it. So you don't want them to go to your some apps or website and input every value. It should be like, you speak and you get it. Like, people are trying to create a whole travel booking industry with generative AI, where they can speak and give an itinerary and they get the ticket booked, right? So that's where how even the insurance industry should move towards. That's a other area. And of course, the third I was mentioning about the claim management. So there are a lot of medical data which is being assessed for an insurance company, and there are a lot of images of health records and images which you need to assess and analyze and then give an output to it. So I think if someone is assisting my underwriters to make a decision basis that, it's going to be pretty amazing to explore generative AI use case.
Awesome. So helping customers, helping company get more revenue, and helping employees do their jobs better. So those are great themes. And I'm sure Parikshit, Girish, Advait, you guys are working on those use cases. So thank you so much for joining us, Abhineet, and all the candid responses about your views about the future and the now. Thank you so much. And Aparna, over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's another interesting one. I think, Advait, you could probably take this. Neha Jha has asked us, can you provide any business cases or value props around what Gupshup and ABB offer for B2B businesses, services, or campaigns? Any use cases within that space?
Yeah, I think B2B is primarily run on data, rather than B2C is very emotion driven because it's catering to each individual, whereas B2B use cases are very specific in nature. Like if you have a B2B operation, you want to do risk analysis, where currently the risk analysis is based on a lot of Dun and Bradstreet data and a lot of other data sources, which takes a lot of manual effort to go through these data sources before you take a risk decision. Whereas, as you see in Sandeep's demo or something that we have done, this can bring in multiple data sources and start summarizing your risk profile for a specific vendor, etc. That's a big use case that we are seeing. The other use cases we are seeing is payroll-based use cases for in B2B scenarios, where there are a lot of questions around how is the payroll run, what is the most efficient way to, which is the most efficient day to disburse salaries, how can we help our employees, and that also revolves around a lot of policy documents as well as best practices run by research companies. We pull in all of that data and start summarizing those points, so it helps a lot of decision making. Similarly, a lot of KYC related use cases in B2B scenarios are also extremely efficient when you use large language models. These are some of the big use cases.
Okay, I think that sort of answers that really well. Parikshit, there is one on sort of domain expertise, right? So Manoj has asked, how do you train for specific context for specific enterprises? So how we ensuring that ABB's responses are articulated based on a domain? Would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of ways to do it. One is, so any input to a LLM model is basically a prompt, right? So you give it a bunch of context, that is your source data, and then you ask a question on top of it. So we have built a very comprehensive prompt engineering pipeline. So, and in order for that to work, we have a bunch of algorithms which actually, for example, if you ask a particular question, we will actually get, we will do a kind of semantic search on all the data source using vectorization and other techniques, and get the a summary of the information, not a summary, a subset of the relevant information, and then we run the prompt on it. So in that way, unlike a base open, ChatGPT, where it's answering on, a globally trained model, and hence it is prone to hallucination and sometimes makes of facts. Our approach, which is more enterprise driven, is very contained, constrained, and then we also use a lot of techniques to ensure it doesn't hallucinate, and also that the prompts are structured in that way that it answers on topic. So it has, to summarize, it has very contextual data, and then we have techniques for hallucination and data boundaries, so that you get the most accurate answer possible.
Great, thank you. There's also a couple of questions around data security and compliance. I think especially like Abhineet as well mentioned, BFSI, that's healthcare as well, that's a big topic, right? So maybe any of you all can take that perhaps.
Yeah, so there are a couple of ways we're doing it. One is Microsoft itself has, so OpenAI can be run off Microsoft, your own Microsoft account, right? So it has a managed, it offers you a managed service which you can run on your own Azure cloud. And then there are some settings in which you can set so that your data is not it's not audited or something. But again, the Azure cloud is still available in a very few regions. And the enterprises who always would want to have control, where the data is going, which geography it is residing. For that, at Gupshup, we are working on a beta of our own LLM. So these are basically foundational LLMs which are fine-tuned using very domain-specific data, and these can run on customer private clouds, or even if they have data centers if they wish to. So in this way, customers have total control of their data. And they can choose and we are and it's in their own geography. In this way, we are compliant to a lot of the data residency, data privacy issues which they would face with other we use OpenAI or Palm.
So there's also been a lot of questions, I think, right from Sandeep's session around generative AI and its impact on unemployment, right? There's a lot of people whose jobs could possibly be at risk of being automated. So do any of you all have a take on that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So generative AI is very disrupting. So a lot of the entry level jobs who would be at risk, and you just saw a demo on software, right? So the impact is going to be huge. But what is increasingly will happen is governments will step in to regulate it. So they will never allow it to be a disruption to society. So you will see generative AI and LLMs with far more regulations, so that the adoption is gradual and not all of a sudden. If you just leave it all of a sudden, it's going to be widely disruptive. And not only for software, right? For example, the whole creative field, right? You had people doing copy, and now it's not there. People creating content and images, those roles are gone. Models are, for if you go to an e-commerce catalog and you see images of people, modern clothes, they are now virtual. So the disruption is very rapid, right? And governments will eventually step in and regulate this. And since we at Gupshup, we are prepared for this, since we have our own LLMs, we can kind of offer these options to our customers, which is more compliant, which is more trained. So we are thinking ahead in terms of this and planning for it.
Great. And I think there is a follow-up question to what you just said, Parikshit. So in terms of the models that we are building out of the LLMs as well, right? Gupshup's own large language model. Are we going to own it? Is it a collaboration between us and the client? So there's a question where, is Gupshup going to provide unique models, foundation plus for fine-tuning to the enterprises that they work with? Who essentially would be categorized as the owner? Is it Gupshup and the client, or is it just the enterprise?
Yeah, so if it's the Gupshup based domain model, so we are taking foundational open source models and then doing a lot of fine-tuning on it. Using our own data, which is domain based. So for example, we have a banking version, we have something on e-commerce and so on and so forth. If a customer so chooses, yes, we are willing to offer an option which is fine-tuned for their specific use case. And typically, we own the models, but at the right commercials, we are open to discussing co-ownership or joint IP with the customer.
Great. And I think we have one last question. It actually mentions that now that APIs for GPT-4 are available publicly, why haven't we seen large enterprise-grade chatbot companies? I'm not going to mention the competitor names, but why haven't more engagement platforms like Gupshup launched something like the Autobot Builder that is ready to be productized and taken to live deployment? What are the challenges? Perhaps since you all have actually built out the product, you all can maybe shed some light on that.
So we can't comment on competition. We at Gupshup are more agile and nimble, and hence we launch first. So adoption, there are different challenges. One is, say every large corporate has multiple divisions. They have, they have risk and compliance, they have legal security. So all of these guys, this is very new. I mean, the pace at which the innovation happening is very rapid. So all of these guys sometimes need to update the guidelines. Right? They're not prepared for this disruption, and so getting something done at a large enterprise, it's very time consuming, right? And these guidelines have been there for checks and balances, have been there for donkey years, right? So getting these guys have to kind of move fast, adopt the guidelines and the risk management and security, and then kind of launch something. So that's why we're seeing this expected adoption not keeping pace. Second, generative AI is also a mindset change for business users. So when a particular product is launched, the business which owns the product, they need to kind of understand, be comfortable with the randomness of generative AI. So it's not predictable like a standard chatbot or a website where you give an expected text, and that's what it sees, right? So generative AI is contextually based on the context of the user, past conversation, the other supporting facts. It kind of generates an answer, and that is, we have seen that it takes some time for business users to be comfortable with the randomness of response. I would not say random in a non-factual way, but the same facts presented in multiple ways, right? So enterprises are undergoing mindset change. I'm sure they're updating their guidelines and especially on security and etc. And the uptake we hope will happen in the third and fourth quarter of this year.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Adit. Thanks, Parikshit. Thanks, Girish. If you just want to maybe get in touch with our sales and get a demo, please feel free to either scan the QR code on the screen or write into us at converse@gupshup.io, and we'd be glad to get back to you with all the details to help you out. A lot of questions were posed about the recording of the video. Everyone who has registered using their business email address will receive a recording of the video in the coming week. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this rather long but hopefully insightful section, and look forward to more with all of you. Thank you.